Hey guys, welcome to another 11 Yanks episode breakdown. I'm Pete Douthit. You all know me. We have a very exciting show today, guys, previewing the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers. And I brought with me the council, the CONCACAF Council here. We have Owen Diana from FootMex Nation and the Mexican Soccer Show here to talk about Mexico. We have Josh of JJD TV here to talk about oh man, what was that country? Just north of our border, I believe, Canada, and their first time in the final round of World Cup qualifying in at least a very long time. And of course, JD from IMAX at Football here to talk about Jamaica. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. I'm psyched to be doing this. How are you guys feeling today?
Doing great. I realized I didn't do my wave. I completely forgot, so I'll do it now.
No, I think the L Tree shirt or the green shirt probably has true. People guessing who you are.
For sure.
Owen, you're not Mexican, right?
No, I'm from the United States, Boston area. But
okay, but tell people are going to be asking, why did you bring this American guy to come talk about El Tree? Full disclosure, viewers, I did try to get a couple of the Mexican channels to come on. It didn't really work out this time, but Owen is. Tell us a little about what you do, Owen, because you are very steeped in the Mexican soccer scene.
Yeah, so I've been covering Liga MX kind of on my own, and then now with FootMex Nation, with the Mexican Soccer Show, etc., doing some freelance work for about the last 4 years or so. I've been watching the league before that as well, and then I'm a big fan now, or a big follower certainly, of the Mexican national team as well, watching all the games. So not from Mexico, but I'd like to think I do a pretty good job providing analysis and covering the scene.
He really does, guys, and I've listened to a lot of stuff on and stuff that he read, a lot of stuff that he's written. So super psyched to have him. Josh, you do I believe you have a Dortmund channel, is that right? JJD TV.
I do,
but you are still a proud Canadian.
I am a proud Canadian. Yeah. Davies put me in a bit of an awkward situation growing up as a Dortmund fan when he chose to go to Bayern. But yeah, I didn't know that the channel when we started it would go towards any Canadian men's national team content. I was talking to Filippo and he said you should jump on it, man. Like you have a channel, you have a platform, and we started covering it and found a lot of success. And obviously the team is actually relatively good now, which is pretty cool. And I think can hopefully get some hype around this country because this is my sport. Canada isn't known so much for a soccer country, but I definitely think there's a trend in the right direction for a bunch of different reasons. But the national team, I think, is where it's going to start. For sure, man. And JD of IMAX at Football, tell us about your channel.
Well, as you know, everyone has to talk about Filippo because I was naturally covering Netherlands channel because I'm in Belgium, but I'm a Jamaican, and English Premier League as well because I was a professional footballer and I like to detail the sport itself. And Filippo said, why you don't talk about Jamaica? Come in the CONCACAF region due to the fact that he's covering United States and stuff. And I said, okay, no problem, because I have information on it and I'm a very detailed individual. So I just try to come around and do the Jamaican content, and as JJD TV says, we found success in it and we just continuously push it out, and we are here, just having a nice time with you guys.
Awesome. So guys, I'm putting all of their channels / Twitter bios, Twitter handles in the description below. All great follows, all great guys to go subscribe to. So guys, I brought the three of you because I believe that these are the four countries that have the biggest chance of qualifying for the World Cup in this cycle. With respect to Honduras and Costa Rica, who I believe also do have a chance, I don't think Costa Rica is what they used to be. Traditionally, they've been up there with Mexico and the U.S. in terms of qualifying. They have sort of a very aging generation now, and they may surprise some people. And Honduras is always going to be a scrappy, difficult team to play against, especially at home. But that being said, I still think these are the four guys that I think are, if I had to put money on it, are going to be fighting for those top three spots. So guys, before we jump, into it, tell me this new format for World Cup qualifying, right? It's, 8 teams instead of 6, as we usually have, the, octagonal or ocho, as we can call it, and 3 game windows. Right? Different than anything we've ever seen in World Cup qualifying. I want to get each of your thoughts on how this is going to impact qualifying, right? In terms of the compressed schedule, the 3 game windows, Why don't we start with you, Owen?
I think it's going to be very difficult for all the teams, but I think it's a measure that ends up favoring the so-called big boys, right? I think the teams with the deepest squads who are able to rotate, you're not going to be able to play the same starting 11 for all 3 matches. So I think the United States and Mexico are the clear winners from that format, right? They're the 2 teams who are going to be most able to rotate and still get points, still win matches. I think, potentially Canada, potentially Jamaica, right, can benefit compared to some of the even smaller nations or with even smaller squads. But I think at the end of the day, the kind of big 2 in CONCACAF, so to speak, are the ones who are the real winners.
Yeah. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, he took the words pretty much out of my mouth. Depth is going to be the big one because, even older players, like I'm going to use an example for me, Tiba Hutchinson. Guarantee he will not play in all 3 games, but he's a vital player to the midfield for us. And these 3-game windows are going to be strategic. If you're going up against a big boy, do you rest your team? And like we're going to have an example of that when Canada takes on the States in this first window. I'm very curious to see what that starting 11 will look like compared to going up against Honduras or El Salvador, because the percentage of beating those teams is a little bit higher for Canada than it would be the U.S. So I think being strategic about how you want to address it and get your starting 11 together for each game will be very important. And whichever risk versus reward the managers do, I think will be pretty important to see who qualifies.
That's super interesting you bring that up, Josh, because it's like a chess match almost, right? And for the US, from our perspective, believe it or not, a lot of people are concerned about this Canada game. We see Canada as being a real opponent, that can challenge us. But what I'm hearing you say is there might even be a possibility that, John Herdman will almost, I don't want to say surrender that game, but be like, we have a higher chance of winning our other 2, so let's save our best players for those 2. Do you think that can happen? That could really happen?
There's a split. I mean, it depends. I think some people think we're going to go no matter what, strongest 11 versus Honduras. And then for sure, like Tiba Hutchinson is a perfect example. He's one of our best midfielders. He will not play all 3 games. So are you going to rest him against U.S.? Are you going to rest him against El Salvador? Do you want the 3 points against which ones? It's going to really depend. I could see it going one of 2 ways. And it's either they rest your best starting 11 against El Salvador, or thinking they're going to win, or against the U.S. thinking you may lose. So I hope not. I kind of hope we rest some of the players, a little bit of a split between the 2 instead of going all out on one versus not all out on the other. Gotcha.
JD, what are your thoughts?
I went a little bit different on this actual question, because what I would say, I think it adds depth. That's true, but due to the fact that we have virus running rampant, I truly believe that this actual setup helps it, because it gives the availability spaced out a little bit better, and you can change and drop in easily. So I think they have actually planned it due to the fact that we have the virus to look at as well. And definitely you have the ability to look at better players and switch out. So overall, just the depth and the actual virus, I do believe that that's what fixed it.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a whole nother wrinkle that's now been added, right? Because of COVID, which I think maybe some of us thought we'd be through this by now, but we're not. And now you see England or the Premier League trying to not release players. And this is true not only for CONCACAF, but for a lot of countries around the world. There's a big Mohamed Salah debate with Liverpool right now. That's going to affect a lot of teams, Jamaica, Mexico, probably the US at some point, maybe not as much in September, but come October, Panama. Real quick, guys, your thoughts on this level, because it's like CONCACAF is crazy enough, and it's almost like the Premier League just added another level of crazy to these qualifiers. JD, I mean, Jamaica is suffering the most right now.
Yes, definitely. Because up to 2 days ago, they literally have 20 people that's actually absent, and 20 class players that you can choose from. So I was just looking at it and said, we can actually adjust this thing due to the fact that you can't look, the United States don't have any red listed teams that they are actually playing. So they will have their full squad. So what happened when United States has a red listed team playing, like maybe 2 months away, they changed the rule. So that means United States got away with an easier run. So I think they should have actually planned a bit away, like get a bubble and just get the players there. because
Yeah.
I was actually reading a story that the teams are willing to let the players go because it's in everyone's contract with the FIFA sign. But the problem is you can't play the red listed teams. So Buendia and Emi Martinez literally left to play only 2 games and then will return and get their 10 days and still reach in time to reach, only missed 1 match. So they made that deal. So people have to literally go out and make individual deals in order to play for their country. So
Yeah.
this virus is really damaging things. And I think it's kind of shaping United States to get away with something. I don't want to say it, but I'm saying it,
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm with you. I don't think like this is World Cup qualifying. This is huge for every country, right? I mean, the chance to go represent your country at a World Cup, to be there, and what that does for your country is now being hampered by what, in my opinion, are pretty silly rules because they seem a little arbitrary.
Yes, I would definitely agree, but I can see why they're coming on from this standpoint due to the fact that they were the first one dealt with the virus very bad. Remember, England was the first country every other big nations blacklisted due to the fact that they were still flying planes. So it was their fault. But now they're trying to punish the not saying the weaker countries, but obviously you need shades from the bigger countries.
Yeah.
So you're not going to red list them. But I think it just hampered all the smaller nations.
Yeah, and that's why I said it seems a little arbitrary to me.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yes,
the
so
U.S.
that's
has
what
as
I
many
agree.
cases or more per capita than a lot of these countries. So why are we not a red country? Now, I'm not advocating for it because I'm happy with getting away with something, but it does speak to the arbitrariness of the rules, right?
Yes,
And
yes, that's
who
what I'm
knows?
saying.
Come October, we may be listed as a red country for all I know, and then we'd lose Pulisic, Stefan, and Sargent, which is huge for us, right? Owen,
Yeah.
real quick, Raul
But
Jimenez.
let me add something to it. If you're not listed as a red country and you're playing a red country, the rule still stands.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Yeah, it could really mess with World Cup qualifying. Owen, real quick, Raul Jimenez was named to the Mexico roster. Is that going to happen? What are your thoughts on that?
It's still unclear. So as of yesterday afternoon, he's been called up, right? He's one of the few in the squad who still hasn't joined up with the squad.
Oh, really?
So it's unclear whether or not he's going to finally be released. If he is, that would be huge for the Mexican national team. That would be a boon for them to have him back. And based off his first 3 games in the Premier League, he's looked really good. He's looking more or less back to his old self. Losing him would be a big blow.
Yeah, I agree. And even as an American fan, Raul Jimenez is good for CONCACAF. One of the best players in CONCACAF, him tearing up the Premier League for a couple of seasons before that, really unfortunate injury. I'm happy to see him back. I think it's such a great storyline for him, for the Mexican national team, and for the whole region. I want everybody in the region to be good because the better every team is, the more competitive it is, and the better it is for all of us, right? We only grow. It's like the rising tide lifts all boats. Like Canada getting better is good for, the U.S. and Mexico. Jamaica getting better is good for everyone. So I'm excited that Raul Jimenez is back, and I think he's going to be that missing piece that Mexico has missed this last summer in terms of a clinical finisher, and it's going to help their World Cup qualifying chances a lot. Hopefully we get to see him, right?
Hopefully. Yeah. Just to quickly add to what you were saying, he provides so much more too than just the goals. He is the best finisher on the team, but he's also in the 4-3-3 system that Tata likes playing. He ends up being the central creator a lot of times as well, dropping deep. And Mexico really missed that, build up that creativity through the middle, generating play in that zone this summer. I think that was a big weakness for them. And they're going to have that now, hopefully, if he's back, in addition to the goals that he can provide.
Right. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and jump into World Cup qualifying, 14 games. Josh, I was wondering, maybe we could start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about Canada's approach, style of play, and maybe just highlight some of the key players that are going to carry the team through this qualifying campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting when I first started, well, not first started, but after that long break the Canadian men's national team had before playing a game, and they all came together to kind of see what John Herdman was going to do. He was criticized a lot with his tactics in the previous Gold Cup during the elimination to Haiti, and this was kind of like a fresh start for him. So I was really curious to see what was going to happen. And when you look at this Canadian national team, you want to play to their strengths. Their strengths, they have two good strikers up front, Laren and David. That screams a two-striker formation. And then, of course, wingbacks. I mean, not only Richie Larea was there, but now Buchanan's coming into his own, and the main man, Alphonso Davies. So playing to all their strengths, it screams to me we can play really one of two formations. More than likely, you're going to see us approach it in the 3-5-2, the three center backs, the two wing backs, three center midfielders, and then two strikers. But it can also be shifted into a 4-4-2, and can have Davies and, like, say, Buchanan as just normal left and right midfielders, still the two strikers up front. Three-man midfield, I think will be pretty important, but that's how I see it going. And in terms of some players that you need to keep an eye on without being obliviously obvious, Alphonso Davies is going to be desperately important on that left-hand side. He just loves playing for Canada, and it's awesome to see. He has defensive abilities to his game, plays as a left back for Bayern, but we know how dangerous he can be going forward. A wing back position is perfect for him. Tajon Buchanan, who anyone who watched the Gold Cup knows what this kid is going to turn into. He'll more than likely play as a right wing back. If we switch formations, like I said, can push further up the pitch, but he just earned a move to Belgium. The two main men up front, the two strikers, David, Laren, both excellent goal scoring records for Canada, and I expect them to put up a lot of goals during these qualifiers. And then even a little shout out to a couple of midfielders. Atiba Hutchinson he's been around for a long time, and Stephen Eustachio is someone who's kind of came into his own. He had a brilliant Gold Cup, in my opinion. I think he scored 3 goals and made a couple other ones. He's our set piece specialist, corners, free kicks. And yeah, there's a lot there, but the biggest thing is the defense. A lot of question marks. We're very heavy towards the midfield and the attack, but there are some young players in there stepping up. Kamal Miller had a good Gold Cup, as well as Scott Kennedy, who's playing in the second division in Germany. So it'll see. It's a new experience for all these guys, for Canada in general, and I'm hoping that they can thrive together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Real quick, 3-5-2. Where does Davies play? Is he the left wing back?
He's left wing back. Yeah.
Okay, and so you think they're going to use him primarily as a wing back / winger in this tournament?
We haven't we have the personnel to potentially pull off a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, but I haven't seen it. I've really seen two formations since we've started. It's the 3-5-2 where Davies is a left wing back, or the 4-4-2. Sometimes we switch it in shape in the middle of the game, and he's a left mid, and he's primarily just on that left hand side.
Okay, great. JD, talk to us a little bit about Jamaica. It's some confusion right now because they have not yet, as of this recording on Monday morning, released a roster. Just walk us through what's going on over there.
All right. No, personnels that don't know much about Jamaica. Jamaica has a lot of dual nationals coming from United Kingdom. Some of the better players are Ethan Pinnock playing at Brentford right now in the Premier League. You have Mikel Antonio, actually one of the best players, are the best player in the Premier League right now for this month, doing very good. And you have a few other individuals that's doing very good down in the championship. And as you know, you have the golden boy for Jamaica, the local boy, which is Liam Bailey. The problem is all of those guys came in, but they had a core set of players that's still there, and they're trying to find the right balance. But due to the fact that you had the virus, you never had enough chance to bring those guys to mesh with the other guys, and that's the problem right now, because most of those guys can't get to come in, or they have short windows. So either you're going to gamble and not win in the end. Because look, if you look at the Gold Cup, I think that's the first gamble. I think they use the Gold Cup as a very expensive friendly, to be honest, because that's the first place most of these guys even met each other. You get me? And you can't go into tournaments like that. But it's just because of the availability and the time that we're actually in. So hopefully they can actually set everything going. Because what I did, I tried to set the strongest possible squad from the Gold Cup with a few additional players, because I know the coach, which is Theodore Whitmore, he's pretty much there for a long time, maybe from 2007 until now. But obviously he was in and out. They tried different people, use him as an interim, and then use him as an assistant, and then he took over a couple of years now. So he has been there for a while, but I can't see any static formation and any plan from him. Maybe not having not looking, not on my eyes, or in my eyes, not seeing a plan, maybe is his plan. that's the because I can't see how they are going to revolutionize the team when you get the players or you're going to work them. But anyways, I saw they brought in Palal. Palal is actually coaching the youth in England, so he's doing a good enough job. So he came and rendered his assistance to Theodore Whitmore, and from that point, I literally saw them play the game where they tried to play the ball on the ground. I think that's one game out of around 25 solid games. I saw it from them against Costa Rica. Even though they lost the match, they pretty much impressed, and it was a 4-2-3-1 system.
Okay. So you expect a roster any day now, and if so, I mean, your opening game is on Thursday, is that right?
Yes, and I think we're going to see Rasta Wednesday night.
Wow.
Yes,
so are any players in camp at all, or are they all still on hold, just waiting?
No. Let me give you some update. What I've heard from Dalton Wint, which is the general secretary, he said they have sent out additional invitation to Mikel Antonio, Ravel Morrison, Bobby Reed, Liam Moore, and Anthony Grant. He plays for Swindon, and that's actually in League 2, and Mariappa.
Okay.
So those are the additional guys that will mix with a lot of other guys around. Like you have Blair Turgart, he's playing pretty much outside UK. Then you have Shamar Nicholson, Maggie, both of those guys playing in Belgium. And then you have guys playing in Egypt and then in America, which is the USL and the MLS. So those are the four I think will actually make it up. But you're not going to see Liam Bailey, I think, because of the injury. And I don't think you're going to see Ethan Pinnock.
Oh, wow. Okay. So those are huge losses for them.
Two main guys for the team. I don't think you're going to see them.
Who's your opening game against, JD?
Mexico.
Oh, boy. So interesting stuff. Oh, and that's good news for you that Jamaica seems to be in some flux right now. We saw Mexico's roster drop. It's a very interesting roster. Some big guys missing. Chucky Lozano isn't there, even though he is back and playing for Napoli. Hector Herrera's not there. Diego Lainez is still injured, I believe. What do you make of it all?
Yeah, so a lot of injuries, first of all, right, from some of those Europeans. I think you touched on it right there. The case of Chucky is a little bit interesting, theoretically because of the injury, but then he did make his first start since returning from that neck injury against Genoa this past weekend, so there could be an issue there with Serie A and these clubs. Nothing's been talked about certainly in terms of the Mexico setup in Napoli, but he's back at least starting now for Napoli. You've got Lainez who's injured as well, Hector Herrera, both certainly Herrera a key player and Chucky as well, and then you've got Gerardo Arteaga too at Genk who missed out. There's rumors going around that he might be banned, that something happened internally. He ended up declining the invitation to go to the Olympics for personal reasons, and then a few days later showed up at Genk's preseason. Apparently that hasn't sat very well with Tata Martino. He's not even called up or in the squad. For me, he would be a starter. So he's not even there. So it's not the strongest squad Mexico could field, certainly. There's been a lot of criticism of certain players getting called up. Rodolfo Pizarro, for example, Chaco Rodriguez, Jesus Gallardo, the starting fullbacks aren't too well liked, certainly after their performances this summer, especially in the Nations League final. There's been a lot of criticism of those call-ups once again. So a lot of Mexicans who aren't very happy with this squad, but to a certain extent, given the injuries and then the situation with some of these players not being allowed potentially to come and represent Mexico, it's probably the strongest squad they could field or close to it.
So just walk us through how Tata's going to play in this window. Who are the three teams? They have met Jamaica and who else?
So Jamaica, then they go to Costa Rica, and then they go to Panama.
Oh, wow. So some tough games there.
Yeah, 2 away games after. The Jamaica game will be crucial. It's an advantage for Mexico, given the turmoil or the uncertainty that the Jamaican squad's going through, who's going to actually be playing in that game for Jamaica. But then going to Costa Rica, going to Panama, 2 teams that didn't look great in the Gold Cup. Certainly Costa Rica, just getting their start out with Luis Fernando Suarez. I think that's an advantage for Mexico. But nonetheless, those are 2 away trips that are going to be difficult. So you have to try to get the 3 points at the Azteca. But in terms of the style of play, Tata rarely deviates from a 4-3-3 formation. In fact, he's used that in almost every match. After Raul Jimenez went down with the injury in November for the March friendlies, He experimented with a back three and a two striker formation. Mexico had a lot of trouble scoring in those games, and then the subsequent ones up into the Nations League, they looked better in the Nations League final, but goals were a problem again in the Gold Cup. They haven't completely adjusted offensively to not having Raul Jimenez there. But it's a 4-3-3 formation. Rogelio Funes Mori will replace Raul Jimenez if Jimenez cannot go. It's a formation that really looks to attack down the wings, exploit the width through the fullbacks getting forward, and then the wingers, which is a real strength for Mexico out wide. If you have your full selection available, if you have Chucky and you have Tecatito on either side, and then Raul Jimenez, that attacking through that trident was a real strength for Mexico in the fall when they had some difficult friendlies against the Netherlands, Algeria. They played Japan and South Korea as well, and they looked great going forward in those games and were scoring goals. So that trident is really important for Mexico if you can have them all fit and firing.
Right.
Defensively, it's a little bit more of a discussion. Tata doesn't really seem sure what his best center back pairing is. He's got Ochoa back there. He'll definitely be the starter, but defensively, there's a lot of discussion. There's a big question mark there still.
Yeah, he seems to really love Hector Moreno and Nestor Araujo back there. I like Cesar Montes a lot. I know Johan Vasquez just got that move to Genoa, but I heard he's out of the squad now. Is that true?
Yeah, so he has a muscle problem and he's missing out. So Cata Dominguez, the Cruz Azul veteran, is going to be called in. He hasn't played for Mexico since 2018, so I can't believe he's going to be the starter. Hector Moreno isn't there either in this call-up. He's also injured. So he hasn't played since the Gold Cup, since he left the Gold Cup final early for injury. He hasn't been back.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
He's going to be out as well. So Mexico before the Vasquez problem, I would have guessed that Nestor Araujo and Vasquez would have been the starting partnership, and that would have worked out well. You have a right-footed player and then a left-footed player. But without Vasquez, I wouldn't be surprised if Araujo then moves into the left center back position. He's played there some for Celta Vigo, again, even though he's a right-footed player. And you could see Cesar Montes then at right center back.
Gotcha.
The only player from that Olympic, Ochoa was there as well in the Olympics, but the only player with, who qualified just because of their age for that tournament, who would then actually be projected into the first starting lineup for the World Cup qualifiers. There was obviously a lot of happiness in Mexico for the bronze medal and how Mexico performed, and a lot of calls for those players to get chances with the starting 11 for Tata Martino. A lot of them are now in the squad, but I would be surprised if they're all thrown into action in the starting lineup in this Jamaica game, potentially for the visit of Panama, the third game when you have to do rotations. But I think Montes could now get the call given the Vasquez injury.
Cool. And then who do you think starts instead of Chucky Lozano on the left wing? Is it Pineda or is it Antuna? Or
I think it's going to be Pineda. Pineda was the one who came in the Gold Cup and looked really good in that position. He's not an out-and-out left winger. He likes to cut inside, likes to generate play from the center, creative player. He's also played in midfield for Cruz Azul and for the Mexican national team. But I think the position is his to lose at this moment without Chucky there.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, guys, I'll talk a little bit about the U.S. And, the U.S. is coming off a great summer in terms of results, right? Won the Nations League, won the Gold Cup. There's a lot to be excited about there. A lot of young players being, sent over to Europe and playing regularly and well, a lot of them. It's a very exciting time for American soccer. That being said, there are still some question marks around this team. When Berhalter came in to become the coach of the national team, he talked a lot about using possession to disorganize opponents. He was known as a very possession-oriented coach when he played, when he coached the Crew. And after 3 years, we still really haven't seen that too much with the national team in competitive games. We've almost always defaulted to being what the U.S. has been for the last 20 years, which is, very compact defensively, very aggressive, athletic, using set pieces and counterattacks well. But we still haven't really seen them be very cohesive with the ball. And ultimately, his job is to now qualify for the World Cup. Even if we don't see that, I don't think that's going to matter to a lot of the fan base. For a fan base that didn't qualify last time round, I think just qualifying for a lot of people is the goal. From my perspective, I would like to see the team become a little more cohesive with the ball. And a lot of our problems start in midfield. where, we haven't really figured out the exact personnel that is ideal. And now we have, Gio Reyna playing centrally for Dortmund, as Josh can attest to. I'm hoping we see a little bit of him there, him or even Brendan Aronson, just because I do think we need a more creative presence in midfield. Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie are very athletic and still very technical guys. But, as far as a pure creator, we haven't really had one in that central midfield. Defense is, probably going to be John Brooks and Miles Robinson, right? Miles Robinson was excellent in the Gold Cup for the U.S. John Brooks, has been the default starter at left center back for a long time. Christian Pulisic, there's questions about him having just, he's just coming off of COVID. He is in camp. He is training, but his fitness levels may not be, where they should be to start against El Salvador. So we may see Brendan Aronson or Conrad de la Fuente start on the left. Ultimately, I think Tyler Adams changes this team a lot. We didn't see Tyler Adams much this summer. We did see him the last 30 minutes against Mexico. And it's interesting to me how much more defensively compact we looked when Tyler Adams was on the field. I mean, he absolutely is sort of the Edson Alvarez, for Mexico, and helps to shield that back line. And not just the job of the defending side, but also, starting counterattacks and attacks with the ball. So I do think that's going to help us. The other question is the inexperience in CONCACAF that this team has, right? A lot of these guys haven't experienced World Cup qualifying yet, and so how they handle that first away trip to El Salvador, which from what I hear is going to be a full stadium. It's, it's going to be a difficult environment to compete in. I'm curious to see, Gold Cup is one thing, Nations League is one thing. Of course, those are great CONCACAF experiences, but playing at home against teams that ultimately a lot of them were not at full strength is very different than playing away in CONCACAF with a World Cup on the line. And I'm just curious to see how this group handles that, So it'll be exciting to see. Real quick, can we just go around the circle and everyone say the 3 teams that you're facing in this window and how many points you expect the team to get? Let's start with JD.
You always make it difficult. Mexico, I think Mexico, regardless of the squad they do choose, they are going to give Jamaica a lot of problems and they are going to go into the game as favorite. We have to be honest and realistic because Mexico, it doesn't matter how you're tweaking it, Pete, to let it sound like Mexico is ridiculously weak comparing to the others. That's not the case. They are going to be favorites in all of these games. So I expect Jamaica to be competitive in that match, but I still believe that Mexico should have the advantage, and I think we're expecting to lose the Mexico game. But I think maybe they are going to pull off and get a few players to play in the Panama game because the Panama game will be playing in Jamaica. So I think that's the game they are going to try and key out to get 3 points in. And against Costa Rica, the last time we met, Costa Rica won the match clearly, even with the aging squad. They have added young players to the roster to add legs. So let's see how they actually work that because they do have very good, I would say, very good veteran that literally helps the core gradually grow. And Costa Rica is pretty much known to do that over the years. So we can't say they're just a poor team. They know how to do it. And I think they're going to do it yet again. So I think we are going to have a big trouble against Costa Rica also. So to be honest, the only team I can see Jamaica winning against, I think it would be Panama because the extra guys will be there for that. I think, but I'm not 100% certain, but if they do turn up, I think they should have enough to win against Panama and maybe a draw. So I would put it maximum 4 points, and I think that would be pretty okay because it's not a full squad.
All right. 4 points for Jamaica. Josh.
I think.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we got blessed with a very strong squad. This is pretty much as strong as a Canadian squad we could possibly hope. The nerves, the excitement, the hype, I think is going to play into factor to see what these guys can do. We're at home for 2 games, which is nice. We're home against Honduras and El Salvador. We're expecting 3 points. I mean, if we want to compete for that third and glorious third spot, even the 4th spot, we need to take these kind of points. We're at home against Honduras. We're going to get home against El Salvador, and especially that Honduras game, knowing that I think they're going to be the dark horse in this run, and they could easily squeak into that top 3. We need to take the points from them. We need to show them that we're here to play and we're here to compete. And then, like I said, the bit of the chess game. How do we do it? Do we line up strong against U.S.? Do we do a 50-50 between the U.S. and El Salvador? I don't know. Regardless, I think the minimum we should go for is 6, and if we're lucky, maybe we can nick a point from the States depending on how we approach the match. But probably, I mean, I'd be happy with 6. I'd be thrilled with 6, but I wouldn't be happy with 4. It's not enough if we want to get a top 3 spot.
So if you have to put your money, 6 or 4.
Oh, 6 for sure. No,
okay.
I'm a little confident. But that Honduras game will definitely be a test. It'll be a real eye opener. But I'm more comfortable with the fact that both those games are at home. So yeah, if I got to put a number on, I'll say 6.
All right, Owen.
So Mexico have Jamaica at home and then Costa Rica and Panama on the road. I think they'll take 7 points. I think Jamaica at the Azteca, it's at home. We'll see how many of these European-based players Jamaica can end up actually calling in and how much preparation time they've had with Theo Whitmore and with the rest of the squad. It will be essentially none. So I think those are 2 big advantages for Mexico in that match. I think they win it. Costa Rica is at a disadvantage in the sense that they have this new coach, Luis Fernando Suarez, who has experience with Honduras in CONCACAF qualifiers, took them to Brazil 2014, but he's only been in that job a couple months. Nonetheless, Mexico, under the previous Costa Rica coach in the last couple months, have drawn twice against them 0-0, had a lot of trouble creating chances in both those matches, and you're playing it in San Jose. I think Mexico will have trouble winning that game, but I think they can get a draw. And then against Panama, I think Panama, based off what we've seen from El Salvador now in the Gold Cup, I think on paper, Panama are the weakest team in this octagonal. And even though it's on the road in Panama City, I think, and with surely some rotations, I think Mexico has enough to win that match.
So 7 points for Mexico. That's the prediction?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to say 7 for the U.S. as well. I do expect that at home against Canada, we will win and should win. To be honest, with the roster the U.S. has, I don't think we should allow ourselves to drop points at home, with the exception of maybe Mexico, where that's always going to be a tight game. It is possible that Canada takes points away from us, but I don't think so. I think it will be a good game and a tough game, but I still think the U.S. should be expected to take 3 points. Now, on the road is a different story, right? We all know, especially in Central America, it's a hard game. And just with the inexperience in this squad and a lot of these players never having played in CONCACAF before, it would not surprise me if we got a draw, either in El Salvador in the first game or in the San Sula in Honduras in the last game. That being said, I do think that 7 should be the expectation for this U.S. team. Less than 7, in my opinion, is not acceptable, because you cannot have, this kind of this is the best roster the U.S. Yeah, I would say, probably the best team the U.S. has ever had in its entire history.
Yes, but Canada, you could say the same thing about Canada as well.
Sure, you certainly can. The difference, though, is that, Canada does still, in my opinion, Josh, has some weaknesses in defense, particularly, right? And even so, I think the U.S. should be expected to beat Canada at home. I don't think Canada's ever beat us at home in 20 years or something crazy like that, maybe more. So I don't think that's acceptable to drop points at home at this stage. I expect the U.S. to get 7, possibly even 9, but 9 would surprise me. 7 would be, anything less than 7 would be cause for concern, in my opinion. So
I don't agree with you. I don't
not agree. So how many points do you think we'll get, JD?
I think 6 should be acceptable as well, because I think Canada is very good. I think people really underrate these guys, and the way they do play and the systems they played with and the way the manager have the players believing in them, I think is a complete throw of a package that United States does not have. United States has the talent, period. But I don't think they have everything that Canada have boosting them. So you have to be careful, Canada might be the one that give you trouble. You watch the last match, even though it was a depleted squad, but it was a depleted squad for both. So you can't use that excuse.
No,
and
100%.
Canada bossed that game. Canada dominated that game.
Yes, they did. They certainly did. And by the way, JD, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy game by any means. It is going to be a very difficult game. But I do think the U.S. will find a way to win.
Yeah, and coming from the Canada perspective, I agree with you, Pete. I mean, like I said, like there's rumors that we don't know. I'm not saying like Canada's going to dress and not full strength squad against the U.S. I'm saying that this is something they're trying to consider with the 3-game windows. They know where the points are more important. It's common sense. You're looking to take 6 points, which is the minimum, in my opinion, for Canada. You're likely to get that from a strong squad against Honduras and El Salvador. Maybe you take the risk, maybe you don't. I think we could definitely give you a run for your money depending on who comes up. But yes, U.S. at home should be expected to take all 3, and I'd be thrilled if we somehow pulled a point from you guys.
It could happen. It could happen. JD will be waiting to hit me up when we don't get 3 points at home.
Yeah, of course, because I truly analyzed that game, and I'm telling you, Josh don't have so much confidence in his team. I think Canada, they are right. I think Canada might just be the 3rd best team in the CONCACAF region. I just have to say it straight out.
Yeah.
These guys are very good, and the additional pieces that were missing, Lauren, Davis, David, these are 3 of the best players in the region in whatever team. They can make every single team. So if you're playing without these guys and you have Estaquio playing that well, Johnston, I think you don't give him enough credit, JJD-TV. That guy really won me over as a defender.
He did.
He is very good, and he's a young guy coming in. So the problem that Canada had was defending. Henry, I think out on the left, he's pretty much slow. So I think he should play centrally, but because of Victoria is 100 years old, they just always want to put him in the middle.
Yeah.
But that's the only problem I saw with Canada. The back 3, the Henry and the Victoria. I think one of them has to play, not 2. Because Henry don't have enough legs.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least from my analysis, too.
They're both center backs for a back 3. But saying that, and I agree. I mean, I'm hyped. I'm hyped about this team. I'm hyped for the game because I want to see what Canada can do against the U.S. But the U.S.'s team is going to be drastically different than the Gold Cup team. We've never competed with the likes of the States at full strength. So I think it's gonna be a real eye opener to see how the Canadian team can go into the States, taking on a full strength U.S. team. And I'm thrilled. I'm hoping for a good game no matter what. I think there's a chance we can take a point. I absolutely do. But yeah, we got some real game changers with a questionable back line. So it'll be fun regardless.
For sure. All right, guys. So what I want to do now is just go around and everybody tell me in, a few sentences, try to keep it short. Why, how should I put this? Okay. What are the primary strengths of the team and reasons your team will do well in qualifying? Let's start with Owen.
JD.
I think experience. Going off this discussion that JD and Josh and we're all having about Canada, the thing that I think is really intriguing about this octagonal is that a lot of these teams are really promising, and you look on paper and you say, wow, this is the best team Canada's ever had. This is the best team the United States has ever had. On a team level with their coaches, plus on an individual level with a lot of these players, we've never seen them go through a World Cup qualifying cycle. So there's a lot of question marks. The United States has the talent to win this octagonal, sure. Have these players ever gone through a World Cup qualifying cycle? Almost none of them, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Canada. With Costa Rica, you have a new coach, et cetera, right? I think Mexico has a lot of players who have been there and done that, been to multiple World Cups. And then you've got Tata Martino. This is his first CONCACAF qualifying cycle. This is his first octagonal, right? But he took Paraguay to 2010 World Cup and to their best ever World Cup finish, right? Getting to the quarterfinals and taking Spain all the way in that quarterfinal as well. And then with Argentina, took them to big tournaments, took them to finals. They didn't win the final, sure. And then he resigned before he could end up taking them to Russia. But they were on track to qualify for Russia in the first 6 matches. He was there of that qualifying cycle. So a coach who has experience taking teams to World Cups, taking teams into difficult places to play, I think that's a huge advantage for Mexico. And then imagining Raul Jimenez isn't in this trouble of maybe playing, maybe not every single World Cup qualifying window, right? Imagining he's healthy and can play the majority of these qualifiers. I think that's a huge advantage for Mexico. I think he's the best center forward in CONCACAF by quite a distance. And as I said before, he offers more than just goals and a presence in the box. He's also Mexico's best assist man during the Martino era. So having a player like that in your team, I think is a big advantage for Mexico over the rest of the team.
I will challenge you, though. I would challenge you on that one. The best center forward in the CONCACAF. If you get Antonio there, I think Anthony is better than Jimenez in a overall center forward role. If you watch the traditional way or center forward plays, he has pace, power, finishing, and he actually links up the play just the same like Jimenez. But he's just much more physically dominant, and that's what the CONCACAF requires. So I would say if Antonio comes, I would give Antonio the nod, and then I would say David would come third to clear it off.
Right. I think you could definitely debate whether or not Antonio is better than Jimenez, but I think beyond that, I think there's this intangible factor of Antonio's isn't bedded in with the Jamaica team, right? So Mexico knows how to play for Jimenez, and Jimenez knows what to do in the Tata Martino system. I think Antonio, there'd be working that out, right? Okay, Antonio, this is the center forward. We want to feed him. How are we going to do that if you're Jamaica? Antonio getting used to his teammates.
I surrender.
Before you
You want the debate? You want the debate?
Start to potentially have that argument, right?
You want the debate?
The other thing, just to go off what Owen said, is that Antonio's never played in CONCACAF, right?
Yeah.
And no matter where you play, CONCACAF is unique, right? When you come here, it's a whole different animal. And I think that, Jimenez has that experience. So it'll be interesting to see. Definitely, I think between the two of them and David, and this is really for the U.S. a problem, right? We don't have a clear, effective number 9 yet. We have some candidates, we have some young players, but Jonathan David, Mikel Antonio, and Raul Jimenez, for me, and even a guy like Funes Mori, are the best strikers in CONCACAF, and that's something the U.S. still doesn't have.
Funes Mori, oh my God, that guy needs 15 chances to score 1. I would actually go with Lauren over Funes Mori.
Go with who? Sorry,
Lauren. You're from Canada. Lauren. I would go.
Oh, Kyle Lauren. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kyle Lauren is better than him. That guy, man. I think it's because Mexico don't have an additional option. That's why they select him. You can't miss like 5 chances to score 1, and I'm talking goals inside the goal, and you can't score. He's very bad. He's very bad. He's very bad to me.
That's awesome. All right. Let's see. So, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard taking a look at, try to analyze this Canada team because we've never done it before. And when I did a fun octagonal prediction video, and I had a lot of Central American teams coming at me because I said Canada was going to finish better. And I understand what you're saying. It's that that nice Stoke saying, cold rainy day in Stoke. Try going on the road in a CONCACAF World Cup qualifier. It's a different game. It's a different ball game, especially in Central America, and Canada hasn't had to deal with it yet. However, room to be optimistic is seeing this team gradually come together through World Cup qualifiers already, taking a step by step, taking on Bermuda, taking on Cayman Islands, going over to Suriname. Sorry, JD, ran them over. Had an opportunity to take on Haiti back to back. We answered it. We went to a Gold Cup. Went toe-to-toe, took out Costa Rica, who are one of those teams. We had a really good game and arguably should have deserved a little bit better in Mexico. I don't know what Owen thinks like that, but it was a really good game from the Canadian perspective. And I think it's going to be interesting seeing how these superstars come together with Davies, Laren, David, Eustachio. This growing bond this Canadian team has is something I think special. It's something that JD touched on as well. And it is a lot of room for optimism. The thing that makes me nervous sometimes can be the back line, especially depth. That right-hand side, we've seen Henry playing a back 3 on the outside. He'll get ripped apart if we are able to do that. We don't really have coverage for Alistair Johnson, which is then going to require players to play all 3 games potentially. And it's going to be very curious to see what Herdman does over these 3-game windows, and especially the away games. But I think the firepower up front I think might be the difference maker going against a team like Honduras, Costa Rica, when they're being stubborn. Can Davies, David, Laren, this attacking trio come up with something to get the points? And if they can, I think there's a realistic opportunity that 3rd, 4th spot could be Canada's.
Awesome. JD.
It's very tough. You can't just the way our Jamaica's system acts. It's very hard for you to predict, because if Jamaica has the best squad, you're expecting them to compete with the top 2. And with Canada as well, I will put them in that same bracket, But I just feel like it's not going to go fully right, because that's how I'm used to it always go. I said it before the Gold Cup, it went the same way. Before that, it went the same way. And I'm not expecting the same, nothing different. Obviously, they have an excuse now, which is the virus. So I think that will definitely cost Jamaica the automatic spot or the automatic surety of forcing to be in the top two or lingering around the top three, and they're going to be in the bracket of fighting for a third spot. I think, but I want to say I think Canada will pick up enough points in the first 6 games, and Canada will tip it over Jamaica. I'm expecting Jamaica to get the fourth spot. If that's the case, that's the best I think Jamaica will do, the fourth spot, in my opinion.
So, just from a U.S. perspective, reasons why we will do well are, for the longest time, the U.S. has been a scrappy, happy to be the underdogs, team that was very athletic and very good defensively, very compact, with very strong team spirit. What we lacked traditionally was technique, right? We didn't always produce the most technical players. That is changing now. We are starting to produce very high level technical players who are plying their trade at some of the highest levels in the world. But, over the last few years, some have argued that we've lost that scrappiness. We've lost that identity of being hard to play against and being really strong and together. Greg Berhalter brought that back this summer, right? The U.S. arguably won games it maybe didn't deserve to win, right? And that was largely due to our scrappiness, to our togetherness, to our being defensively compact, tactically aware. And so I think when you combine those two things, those are reasons why the U.S. will do well. Not only that, yes, like the experience aspect of going away in CONCACAF might be a new sensation for a lot of these guys. But I do think that togetherness and that team spirit is going to carry us through those rough moments, which there will inevitably be. Now, guys, let's each take a turn and just talk about reasons why our teams might struggle or some weaknesses of the team. Let's start with JD this time.
Okay. All right. The first thing not the first thing, because we've actually talked about it straight through the show itself. The availability, the preparation, that is one thing I think Jamaica will struggle big time because it's not a thing that they do well. The federation, I just don't believe they do it well. And preparation is the first sign of success. You have to attack it rather than always being sitting back and waiting until you're back against the wall. Then you try to do something. So that's not the proper way. On the field itself, I truly believe that the main weaknesses are actually in defensive central and the two fullbacks. Them, I don't think Jamaica has fully sorted it out as yet. You have Kemar Taxi Lawrence playing in the MLS now, and you have Amari Bell actually just changed his club in the championship. Both are good enough fullbacks, but I truly believe that under pressure, Taxi seems to not read the game well. At least his last set of games in the Gold Cup, every single time he got caught too high and a 1-2 pass, you're clearly seeing his centre backs and put his centre backs in positions to get even red card. It happens in two separate games. You can't be doing that. And then they don't trust the next guy enough. So they don't give him enough time to go forward because he's better attacking than defensive. So one guy just came into the team. They didn't give him enough license to go forward, and it actually stagnated the team overall and let it lopsided. And then you have the next side, Albus Powell, a next guy on the right side, Albus Powell. I don't think he's a good football player overall, and I don't think he's a good right back, none at all. Others say otherwise, but I said it from before. What I saw from him, I don't think he's up to the scratch of the new look CONCACAF team. So they are going to try and get Wes Harding. Wes Harding playing a back three and naturally as a right wing back and a right-sided centre back. I think he's going to offer some resistance, but he's not the best going forward. And as you know, once you have two fullbacks problem, they are going to try and pin you out wide always and force you to play centrally. And then it's going to expose the defensive central problem. They just said they are going to get Anthony Grant, which is the one from Swindon League 2. I think he's good, but I don't see him turning up in the first game and being effective. So that's three key areas, two in the defensive third and one at the base of the midfield third. I think that's going to be problematic and forced. And the strikers will be struggled to get a touch of the ball.
All right.
So those are my problems straight through the tournament, I think.
Okay. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, for Canada, obviously, I mean, I'm not worried about creating chances, scoring goals. I think we have the firepower on the wings up front to be able to get it done. The midfield I'm pretty comfortable with too. As Eustachio growing as a player, Hutch coming back in, it's going to look good going forward. The question marks, without being obvious, is the back three. We got technically, I guess, a player playing the second Bundesliga, an MLS player, and a player playing in Portugal. All relatively high leagues, but the depth in behind that could become a cause for concern. And I'm a little bit nervous, and I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but I mean, not being able to play players in all three games in these competitive, hard atmospheres is going to be hard. And like I said, I don't have a comfortable option in a back three on the right-hand side. We played Henry there. He's not quick enough. We had Vittoria in the middle, Henry on the side. He's the only other option. There's no one else really to play on that outside right center back. That's the number one position I have cause for concern if Alistair Johnson does not play. Now, maybe he's fit enough to play all three, and if so, fantastic. The left-hand side, a little more comfortable with Kamal Miller coming into his own with Scott Kennedy. But a big thing for me as well is going to be the tactical decision-making throughout the games. When things don't go your way, when I watched the Haiti game where we only won 1-0, these teams are going to be tough. And it's known in the CONCACAF, and Alphonso Davies had quite the game against Haiti when we only won 1-0. He was getting run over left, right, and center. He was getting frustrated, and Herdman didn't really shape up. Now, we were in a comfortable lead at the moment, but you got to be careful because if Davies goes down, it changed the dynamic of this, and players are going to gun him. He's that good. He's that talented. So I want to see Herdman, if they run into situations where things aren't working down the left-hand side, be adaptable, be able to switch up your shape, because I think that's something where it's going to be important. If it's not working, find a way to make it work. Davies can play almost anywhere, honestly, up front. We can switch into a wide formation. He can go to the right-hand side if he's not working down the left. Don't keep throwing him at a wall like in that Haiti game, and try to be adaptable. I've seen him in the Gold Cup, which I've liked, switch up formation. We saw it against the U.S. When we started dominating the game, we switched to a 4-4-2, and you saw Buchanan flying all over the pitch, and he had the ball quite a bit. And being able to adapt like that on the fly is, I think, what makes a good manager, and I'm hoping John Herdman can do that, because if he doesn't, I think they're going to be able to shut down teams like us.
All right. Quick question for you. Who starts in goal? Is it Kennedy or Borjan?
It'll be Borjan.
Okay, Borjan.
Crepeau is the backup, and then it would be one of those two. Crepeau did have a pretty good Gold Cup, in my opinion, but Borjan's our captain, so I would be very surprised if he didn't start. I expect him to start all three, probably every game, to be honest.
Okay. Owen.
So continuing the theme of defensive issues that JD and Josh are talking about, I think that's the main problem for Mexico, especially in the fullback positions. I think Gallardo and Chaka are the clear starters there. They're two of the three players with the most minutes, most matches under Tata Martino. I think they showed this summer that they're not the most reliable, especially in key matches. Gallardo in particular, really culpable in the Nations League final for the Americans' first two goals. The defense in general really struggles with set pieces. 29% of the goals conceded under Tata Martino have come from dead ball situations. As I touched on earlier in the program, there's not a clear center back partnership that's been found in the Gold Cup. Moreno was injured for part of it, but there was a lot of movement going around between Moreno, Salcedo, and Nestor Araujo. Salcedo isn't even in this squad. There's rumors of a falling out with Tata or members of Tata's coaching staff. So there's a lot of question marks in that back four there ahead of Guillermo Ochoa. And then I think you've also got the question of whether or not Funes Mori can be that Raul Jimenez replacement. He can't do this, can't do as well theoretically as Raul Jimenez can. He provides a lot of the same attributes, not as good a finisher though. More of a Raul Jimenez light. So what happens if Raul Jimenez cannot go for Mexico in that position? And then I think the third big question mark or big issue for Mexico is off the field, and it relates to the pressure that's now on Tata Martino after what a lot of people in the Mexican press have considered failures this summer. The two failures in the Nations League final and the Gold Cup, especially losing to the United States, is never something that's welcomed, right? Those are two tournaments that Mexico was expected to win. So the honeymoon for Tata Martino is now officially over. And the worry would be if they don't start out well in these first few matches of qualifying and the pressure really gets put on Martino, how that affects the team in the games when you need to be picking up points.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting that defense seems to be a theme across the board. I think two reasons why the U.S. might struggle are, our ability to create chances, from open play, right? If you look at this summer, most of our chances came from set pieces, right? Most of our goals, in fact, came from set pieces. In open play, we really never saw a cohesive midfield attack. So, and that is at home. Away in CONCACAF, it's even harder to do that. So I think that could be a reason we struggle. Another reason we could struggle is on the counterattack, right? When you're facing teams that are, sitting in a low block and defending, sometimes an inexperienced team needs to remember that even while you have the ball, you have to be prepared to defend when you lose the ball. And we haven't always been as good defending the counterattack as we should be. Part of that is we have fullbacks who are more attacking level fullbacks, maybe not as good defensively. John Brooks, although being very good in every other aspect of defending, I still have question marks about him defending on the turn or defending on an island. When you isolate him 1v1, when you play the ball in behind him, he can be beat. And so those are questions that I have. You might be pounding a team and unable to score, and they get one counterattack in the game and score, and now you've lost 1-0. So those are the two reasons why I think the U.S. could struggle. The third one I have is about ego. You have all of these players playing at a high level, right, for Champions League teams. Are they willing to do the dirty, gritty, self-sacrificial aspect of team play that it requires to be successful in CONCACAF? I hope so, and I think that's a possibility. But I've seen signs in this group, a little bit of teams maybe not being willing to do the defensive side of the game. And I don't think it's a huge issue yet. It's just a small undercurrent that I've noticed. So we'll see how that goes. If they're ready to fight and bleed and do all the scrappiness that's required in CONCACAF. So yeah, it does seem like defense seems to be an issue for a lot of us across the board, and we'll see how that goes. It will make for a fun qualifying process. I think there's going to be a lot of goals. Last question, guys. I want us to just go around and say this: come March, the end of March, the Ocho is over. Where does your team place in the octagonal? Let's start with Josh.
Third.
All right. JD?
Fourth.
Owen?
First.
And I will say second.
Okay.
What?
All right. So 1, 2, 3, and 4.
No arguments there. Worked out
You would have
perfectly.
said first.
Friendly people.
Yeah, he could be right. I mean, I'm hoping for first, but
Yes, I thought you would have said first.
we may get first. Maybe I'm underselling this team. We may very well get first. I still think. I just think our inexperience will cause us to drop points in certain areas where we shouldn't, and we'll see though.
Will be angry with you.
That would be what?
Filippo will be angry with you.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for jumping in and talking to me. I really appreciate this. Guys, I have put their links to their YouTube channels and Twitter, accounts below. Go subscribe, follow them. Very interesting. It's going to be we might do this again, maybe halfway through the Ocho, and just sort of recap what's going on, guys, if everyone's down for that, and then project the future, because I think it's going to be a hell of a ride. Thanks again for coming on, guys. Josh, JD, Owen, I'll see you guys soon. You all have a great one.
Take care, boys.
Take care, everyone.